86. Yeah, okay.
All right.
From the Teddy Belanger studio in Rome, New York, welcome into episode 86 of the Avetts and Beyond. My name's Todd Emanuele. We got Ryan Boyles alongside of me and special guest joining me again. I always love when the official or unofficial archivist of the Avett brothers comes on the show. Tim Mossberger is back. Tim, thank you so much for stopping by.
Glad to be here.
And you've been wanting to do this. I saw you promote it today on one of your posts to talk about the Avett Brothers 2024 kind of year in review type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So where do you want to? So you want to start in January and go through each month, or what did you have in mind?
Well, I mean, we start with it. There was, they played 57 performances, and 49 shows, like what I would consider a full show, which whether that's opening for, opening for someone, or they just played a full set list. Then there's the other performances are, they played on late night TV or a radio show. So there's 8 of those, but, so which obviously is not a lot of shows compared to the past. Like if you compare it to anything in 2010 to 2019, we're anywhere from 30 to 50 shows short, than what they used to play. And say in 2007, they'd play, 115, or more.
Big difference. No kids. Is that a lot?
Yeah. And I just think, industry changes. I just think, it's just slowing down a little bit, which is fine. And I think that comes a little bit with the set list, less shows means set lists can be a little more similar sometimes,
Yeah, there's been a little bit of debate about that amongst Avett fans. And I know you've kind of dove deep into this whole thing. Can you tell us what you discovered about playlists from the past to now?
My take on it is they've always gone through streaks where there's been similar, there's been, a chunk of songs they've always stuck around, and they've made a point of that in the last, bunch of probably a good 8 years where it's really been the case. But I'll say the big thing this year is with the less shows is the encores stayed the same a lot. The cover stayed the same. Like, I'm trying to think, there were only played 12 total covers. And, in the past there was, they didn't play them as much. Like they played the Toby Keith cover, like in the encore, a giant chunk of the year. Like it stayed there, and the end songs, there were parts of the set list that were very similar a lot of the times, and that's just how it is. Now, there were other streaks of that in the past, but they would change up. Say they had a 25 song set list, there'd be those 3 or 4 or 5 songs that would change. And this year, sometimes you're lucky that one song changed. That would be the difference. Just a few songs off, But then they got to the end of the year, they switched it up at the beach, of course. The 3-night runs or multi-night runs get you some extra songs, I feel like.
Well, they definitely seem to expand the set list at the end of the touring season here. When which show was it, or set of shows, they didn't play anything off the new album, right?
Yeah, the Moon Crush, they switched it up, quite a bit. And I don't know. I just think I don't think it's a huge deal. I think it'll come back around. I think a combination new album wanting to play those songs.
Yeah.
Which, but even compared to say when I Ain't Loving You, I Ain't Loving You didn't dominate the set list as much in 2009 as 10 as this album did this year. They would maybe play 3 songs from I Ain't Loving You, and, you're getting 6, 7, songs, in this year, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think people should just have some perspective of, enjoy the shows.
Right.
It'll swing back around. I think they'll start to throw other stuff.
I'm not good at keeping track. I went to a couple of the early shows this year, and it felt like they were playing the whole new album except for 1 or 2 songs. So was there do you recall if there was any show this year that they played all the songs except I know they didn't play the Same Broken Bones, but I think there must have been a few shows where they
played everything else. There were some. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the show I went to, they played everything but 2 of the songs from the album. I was kind of bummed they didn't play 2020 Regret that night because I was expecting it because they had played it every other show leading up to that after the album came out. So
They knew you were coming, Todd.
They knew I was coming.
They just didn't want to,
like-
I was bummed, but I didn't complain about it. Like some of these people complain about the set list.
Yeah.
Has that been a thing? Like even
That's
back in the
always
day,
happened.
people
There's
still
nothing
complained
new.
about it.
It's nothing new. 2013, I remember specifically in 14, people complaining a ton. Like it's always happens. And like, and again, people have a right to, and I think sometimes the band could do. I'm not saying the band couldn't do better, and you should, could mix it up a little more. Of course they could, but I think it'll come back around to that. But they've always gone through periods where it's been a little similar. Even say in 2006, when they would play, their set list would only sometimes be like 8 songs, right? Distraction 74 is on every one. It always played. Talking Indolence always played. There was always a set of songs always played. It wasn't like it was some magical time where every single set list was always a new song. Like that didn't exist. That didn't happen.
Well, let me ask you this though. Like with the new album, with Swept Away, do you think they kind of played more of the classic like favorites more because they thought maybe they have some new people checking them out?
I don't know if that's it. I just think combination of new album plus songs they like to play and have fun playing, and throw in the Muppets, which is probably the big thing of this year to me is Muppets, and then Swept Away musical. Those are kind of the new album. Those 3 things are what happened in this year.
Yeah.
So, and
it's not just the year of the Avett brothers. You got actually, if you think about it this way, this is some silly play on words. But if you separate Avett and brothers, it was the year of the Avetts, the puppets, and the year of the brothers that Swept Away. So there was kind of a lot going on, honestly.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when they going back to that Toby Keith cover, they seem to really, really enjoy playing that. You could tell they've just, I think, at their stage of like what they're doing, it isn't just about doing some random new cover just because. I think they chose that one specifically, and they really enjoy playing it all the whole tour.
Yeah, so, and it got played. It got played a lot, and
a lot of David Childers in the encore too.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like the encore really kind of held to, a second. Where in the past I would say the encore be different, and then the set closer, which was almost always Ain't No Man. So those things, that would be the difference. I see the big difference between this year and past years is those things held. Encore probably good 80% of the time the same, and the regular set list ending with Ain't No Man. So
I have a solution perhaps to the complainers, or a solution for the complainers maybe. Ooh. I think they just are not picking the right shows to go to. I think there is sort of a strategy around what cities you maybe see them in, or whether it's a multi-night run, of course. But I just think there are patterns there where some venues even they seem to mix it up more consistently. So,
right, so
some of the folks need to think about it that way maybe.
Yeah. I'll go over the top played songs of the year. The top played song was Love of a Girl, played the most, 48 times. Head Full of Doubt was second. Ain't No Man third. Country Kid fourth. And then No Hard Feelings was the fifth. So
that's surprising. No Hard Feelings is.
It didn't make a bunch. It didn't close the set list a lot of the opening for Luke Combs. Like they didn't close the set list.
Oh, okay. That's true. Let's say every other show, then those kind of shows.
And then the 3-night runs, it didn't, like at the beach, and stuff. It didn't close every night.
That's true.
So, so that kind of lowered that number. And then the one time No Hard Feelings was played earlier in the set, it played like the 12th spot or something, it threw off everybody.
So Love of a Girl being number 1 this year doesn't surprise me because that was the first single that came out off the new album. So they wanted to play that more than anything, I'm sure.
So, and that got obviously played on TV appearances,
right.
Radio shows. So that gave it extra too. So, but
it's a fun song though. I love it. When I
saw
that one live, they had the whole place going, dancing and having fun with that. So, good song.
Now the rarer moments of the year, of course, is beside the yellow line at the beach as the Annapolis interlude, which that had been more than 1,000 shows since that was played. We got Pretty Girl from Locust came back after I got that 600 shows. Then he played The Greatest Sum. That was another good moment. I feel like. And then Seth, for the third time, playing Souls Like the Wheels solo. Those were kind of the big rare moments, I would say, of the year. And then a few other little things that I would know, like when the one time they played Left on Laura, at the end during the final verse, Scott actually plays piano on it because they're going to Head Full of Doubt. So the last little bit of the verse, he's playing piano on Left on Laura. Then they go into Head Full of Doubt.
And that had never happened before, or
no. I mean, it probably only happened because he was going for Head Full of Doubt and went right into it. But like, just little things, like that. And the same thing with, and the ad libs of the year, like lyric changes, that kind of stuff happens throughout the year.
Tell us some of them.
Well, for the new album, Scott does the most for Forever Now. He does the most kind of little things, because what is like have some somewhere, if when he says, that's when he says after the line, "Can I live forever?" And he says, "How do I do that?" He adds those kind of things. That's the kind of the big song of the new album where there are some little Scott, add-ons, during just different points, like after the Heaven, he says some things, just different performances throughout the year. But, other than that, like some of the songs don't, lend to them that anymore. Country Kid and, Love of a Girl, they kind of just play it, they don't change too much. But
it'd be tough to change lyrics in Love of a Girl on the fly. It's so fast.
Yeah. I mean, some old songs don't lend itself to that either. But, there are always still some moments of that.
I love that you keep track of all of this.
Someone's got to do it, I suppose.
Right? Does this happen with other bands, though, where they keep track of?
Oh, yeah, of course. Like Bob Dylan and stuff,
They keep track of the lyric changes, though, and stuff like that?
Probably as much as they can. Someone would, yeah. I mean, especially like big changes and big songs. Maybe they don't keep of every ad-lib, but not every band, not every band has a Scott Avett just changing crap for no reason, and they're just throwing out words in between, normal lyrics. That doesn't always happen that often.
No,
so
I love that, though.
And
people complain about these set lists being the same, but he's always changing stuff up.
Yeah. And I think to go back to that, I mean, people complain it is never that bad. I don't think anyone's ever that mad. They still pay money to go, and they go again, and they just are like, man, I wish it was a little different. I wish this was played. And
it kills me though. I see people complain about that, saying that I'm just not going to spend money and go to the shows anymore. It's just not worth it. If they're near me, I'm going to go. I mean, I can't imagine having that thought just because they play similar songs. I mean, I'd go hear them play the same songs every show and be happy.
But I will say that there are people who used to go, like, okay, where I live in Illinois, used to be able to travel 2 hours to Indianapolis, 3.5 hours to St. Louis, 5.5 hours to Nashville. Like you could easily go to Chicago. There's another 2.5 and hit all these places. Yeah, and there are people who wouldn't now, if they came through and played Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, some people probably wouldn't go to all three if the set lists were the same. Especially with price of tickets.
Well, yeah.
And that, so I mean, I understand it. Like you're not gonna. What if you don't now? If you're gonna get that, if you have a chance of getting some different songs, then yeah. But you got to understand that attracted people. The reason for them originally going would have been that. I remember going to see them in Indianapolis and going, oh, got to go to the next night. They may play 4 different new songs I've never heard.
And
I understand chasing that.
They still might do that though, and that's what kills me is they say, "Oh, I'm not going to spend the money." Then you don't go and you miss out. What if you miss out?
Yeah, but
I've seen that over and over. I've seen people get regrets when stuff like that happens.
So,
you've been, Ryan, you've been to 100 shows. Have you ever been upset by a set list enough that you thought, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Never.
No.
I mean, wait, like Tim said, like I think you're blessed to have that experience. Period. No matter what it is, no matter where it is, just who you're with and everything is much more important. Just having that.
100%.
When you get to that, you're talking about we've created a community of people and people and that's a huge part of the experience is that besides even the songs or them on stage. Sometimes I see people have so much fun and they didn't even have to come out on stage, just the people hanging out,
Absolutely. Great group of people.
Yeah. And then, so what you guys is now the Muppets would be the other controversial thing of the year.
I love them.
I don't understand why it's controversial. I
I
guess
know.
I'm a little, I don't know.
No.
It wasn't every show, first of all.
Right.
Again, pick and choose the shows you want to go to if it's not your thing.
3 to 4 songs, usually 3, you know.
Yeah,
but sometimes
it's actually really minimal when you think about it. It's enough to give you a taste of it.
And you got almost great banter every time.
Yeah.
You started to tell a story.
To me, that was the
about
cool
it,
thing.
you know. So you get that.
One of the most fun parts that I noticed was how much fun they were having with the puppets. I'm like, how can you not like watching them have fun with this? It was fun. It was different. I thought it was great. I loved it. My kids loved it. I can't imagine.
It was sort of totally unexpected. I mean, when it first kind of happened, you're like,
yeah.
I defy anybody to like come up with this idea. I really want to know the backstory from them. I don't think it's been fully. I mean, they have their story on stage, but coming up with it is a different matter, you know.
Yeah, who reached out to who? Like who knew who would be my thing. Yeah, I don't know that. I don't even know that. They've never said it in an interview yet or anything of like how it really came about.
We've got Dolph on next week. Maybe I could ask him that. That'd be maybe he could give some insight on that.
I don't know.
The only disappointment I have about it is it was never brought up that Seth looks like Animal when he's drumming back in the day. So I'm very disappointed that was never brought up. Because if you ever watch old videos of Seth drumming, looks exactly like Animal.
That's hilarious.
So,
I gotta look that
and that's
up.
where we used to say all the time. I mean, that would be talked about all the time, you know. Back in
I guess
the day.
my only qualm, honestly, is that I don't know if you were going to talk about this, Tim, but they did put a decent amount of effort into several music videos. I mean, so I was actually I liked all the music videos. They were all different, artistic in some way, but I was expecting them to cap it off with a music video that actually featured the puppets. So I was like, why put all that into it and not use them? Maybe it's licensing, maybe it's something with the Henson Company about what they could and couldn't do with the puppets, but I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Maybe it's still coming.
Maybe.
There is New Year's.
You're right.
That's true. That might be the grand finale.
That could be the end of the year of the Avetts. As Dolph told me way back last year that 2024 was going to be their year, and it's been a good one for the most part. Swept away. We can talk about that. Did you have something else you wanted to get into before we go into that? I knew you were going.
I don't know. I guess the only other big things that I had for the year was Joe's cello getting broken.
Yeah.
You know, Seth damaging that was the other thing. And then, you know, of course, the releases. The other release was the Mini Net on vinyl.
Mm.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Kind of the things of. So.
I have it and I can't touch it because my wife has wrapped it in for Christmas and I can't touch it until Christmas morning. So I'm anxiously awaiting that.
You're going to enjoy it. I have not been a vinyl person until roughly a year ago. So I was kicking myself for not getting Emotionalism back when I first started following the band. But now, Minionet. It's mind blowing to hear it that way. Yeah,
I can't wait. Can't wait. I shouldn't have asked for it for Christmas. I should have just bought it, but whatever. All right. So Swept Away. You want to talk about Swept Away and all of that?
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I mean, I heard lots of people. I've heard about it a lot. So, but I'm glad it was extended. I'm not surprised. I thought people would rally. I mean, I didn't know. I don't have. Bear in mind, I have zero idea of how Broadway works or even any musical, anything of that works. I haven't the slightest clue in the world. But I kind of felt like when they announced that people would rally, I just felt like the crowd would. And I seen tonight's show sold out.
I think I think all the rest of the shows are sold out, aren't they?
Okay. So
I don't know if that'll change things. I wonder. They extended it for 2 more weeks.
And they said that's rare to get an extension once. I wonder if any show has ever gotten more of an extension. And if they keep selling out, will they extend it more? I think it's great that they did. I think it was.
I wonder. My question is like also being ignorant of that sort of world, but was it a tough time to open a show in November? You know, with everything else going on in the world or whatever. Like, I wonder if there's like I don't know if there's a good or a bad time, but it's a lot of it is a function of word of mouth and marketing. But
Yeah.
And the story
I just
matter,
wonder.
like,
Yeah,
because we're Christmas time. Do you want to go see that? Because
True.
I feel like some
Show about
people,
cannibalism.
yeah,
although,
I
but
was-
I heard that they sort of the show shifting to Broadway. They sort of there's a little bit more oomph to some of the songs. They talked about this song. Do you know, Tim, about this song that they said it was like a special Avett song that's never been recorded or
Yeah.
played, but they put it in the performance.
yeah,
for the,
Seth wrote that one
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, so I'm be happy that that'll come out probably on the CD. I would assume. I would hope so.
Yeah,
So then maybe
that's what I
we'll
was
get
thinking.
that, and then maybe one day as a Guild 45 or something,
Yeah,
we'll
that would
get
be
Seth's
magical.
version. Or
that's
something.
a good idea. Ooh, I wonder if that'll happen on the next one.
That is a good idea.
So
But they were just starting to put out Swept Away merch, like at special, like they put out a banjo yesterday and
Yeah.
coats the day before, like these longshoreman looking coats the day before that. So it's obvious they had a lot more, they intended to keep this thing carried on for a while.
Well, it goes to kind of the same problem of, it's not a problem, but the same thing with Avett Brothers not having any huge hits. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem. Like, it's not like they made a play around some band that has at some point sold 5 million records or,
Right.
just huge. Like Avett Brothers, they have extremely passionate following. And I think if you buy in, you're in.
Yeah.
But your average person, I mean, I can walk into my daughter's school or walk and see other parents, and lucky there's no one who know who the Avett Brothers are compared to say someone like Green Day or
True.
Obviously any other big band, Taylor Swift, or I don't know who else has plays. I know Green Day had a play, and
that was actually a connection to somebody involved with this. So my question was always, why didn't they lean into that in the marketing? Yeah, like they do that in the movies all the time. Like if you liked Arnold in the Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator, you're gonna love him in True Lies or whatever. That is like movie marketing 101, and I wonder why they didn't do that here.
I don't know. It all comes down to money, though, and they said the show is making, or it's probably making more now that it's been selling out, but it was like $400,000 a week, but it cost like $600,000 a week to run. So they had to see it right from the beginning that it just wasn't going to work out financially.
Yeah,
and
I don't. Does that? Does that happen to all shows? I mean, I don't know anything about it. Like,
are the margin? I just wonder, are the margins for that razor thin? Like that seems odd. I don't know.
That's the numbers I saw, and they also said that every theater on Broadway has like a line of shows waiting to take over the theater. So if something has the potential to make more money, then they're losing money. They're going to try to put something else in there and bump the show that was there.
So, I mean, is it kind of like when they do, like all movies, whether it be even music, probably still today, but especially music back in the day, you're looking for the one hit and you may have 10 flops. But if you have that one, record companies be like, we have one record that spells 10 million. Well, that covers, 100 failures,
It's huge.
So, or, maybe it's like that. I don't really know.
I don't know how it all works, but I saw someone that seemed like they knew what they were talking about post about their big Broadway person and said that's how they worked. And they showed all the numbers from different shows and how much money they make. It's crazy how much money some of those shows make. And I guess they just weren't filling seats at first. And then when they announced it's closing, of course, everyone comes together. They start selling out all the shows, and now they gave them the extension. But, will it continue on after that? I bet you it doesn't. I bet you.
I feel bad for Avett fans who had planned to go next year.
Definitely.
It would hold for at least 4 or 5 months.
Avett fans like me who were planning on going like February or something like that. It stinks because I'm not going to get to see the show now. Did you get to see it, Ryan? Did you go somewhere to see it?
We went to DC a year ago.
Right.
Yeah,
I thought you did.
That was a much easier. Well, like we talk about travel and everything, it's much easier to go visit DC for a day than plan a whole New York trip. Right. So for some of us, I mean, coming from different parts of the country, it's challenging.
Yeah,
it's challenging
I live in New York.
Make that trip.
and people are like, "Oh, you're in New York. Why don't you just go?" I'm like, "Well, I'm 4.5 hours from the city. It's not just like I can just go to New York City. It's not that easy."
It's hard to get me to get in my car and drive to Chapel Hill. Let's just put it like that. It's like I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, come home from work. I don't want to do anything. I'm the same way. But
that's a sign of the times, though. I think it's just harder to get people to go to a movie theater or a theater or a anything now. It's just
yep.
Everything is so expensive, and it is such a pain to travel. Period. I mean, nobody wants to. I mean, we can get depressed and talk about that all we want, but it's just different. It feels different than it used to be. That's all.
Yeah. And what do you blame COVID for that? I mean, because
I
don't know.
Going back to
COVID for everything.
Yeah, I guess that's a good scapegoat, but
right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. For when Swept Away, I think a lot of it has to do with the show being about cannibalism. Honestly, but if you're not a fan, are you going to be drawn to it? I don't know.
I'm just happy it was made. I'm glad at least I'm sure it added. I know. First of all, I know it added a bunch of fans. Even the people who made it became fans. A bunch of them didn't know who the Avett brothers were, and they became fans. None of them May It Last created a chunk of fans.
Sure.
And this did too. So at the end of the day, I think it's a win for the Avett brothers. It doesn't, whether it goes on after this, it's still something that was done.
Yeah.
And quality. And my thing is, their thing has always been about quality. Like they want to, it's not like they just throw everything out there and just say yes to everything. And it's the fact that if it isn't a humongous hit, if it doesn't go on to be a huge hit, that's okay. If the art was good and they made it with good intentions, I think that's a success and it's fine. I mean, I feel bad for.
I was going to say, how many shows are made that don't make it to Broadway? I mean, they made
a bunch.
They made it all the way and got an extension that no one ever gets. So I don't know. They should be very proud of what they did. And the people that have seen it, that I know that have seen it, loved it and have seen it multiple times. And I wish I could get down there to see it before it's gone. Oh, well. All right. So what else you got there for the year? That was a pretty big chunk of the year we talked about.
Overall, I mean, again, I'm excited to see what happens next year. I think we get, we can talk about next year more than anything. I think next year we get a new Seth and Jessica album. That's my prediction.
Well, I thought I heard that was in the works.
Well, I think it's done.
They kind of announced it, didn't they?
They didn't announce it. They played they played a song together on Instagram.
Did you post? Maybe you posted something, and that's what.
But and there were pictures of them in the studio early this year, maybe somewhere like that. So I mean, I think it's done, but I think we get that. Cool. I won't be hugely surprised if we get another Avett Brothers album. I won't be that surprised. Or if we get a live album, we get something. So
I agree.
A live album I can see, definitely.
Hey, they said they wrote 8,000 songs during the pandemic. They got to pull those out and put them on, press them.
Why not a live album? And
what about a Scott collab? Because it feels like Seth is Mr. Collab of the duo, but Scott doing his thing with Eve.
Scott's painting.
Is he going to do more things? Yeah,
I think it's always been Scott's paintings that's done that. Because even back in the day when Seth was making the Darling albums in like 2000, 2001, Scott was working on a solo album himself. And I think that he started a few songs. He had a few songs that I think eventually became Avett Brothers songs, but he was going to make his own solo album and it just didn't happen. I mean, he had the art gallery and the art. And I just think, he isn't about to do a whole nother solo Scott album. I don't see it. So, but he may collab with somebody again someday, like he did with, but.
You know who I would want him to do it with, if we're just going to pick out of a hat, is Valiant Thor. Ooh. I think if he did something with Valiant Thor, it could be good. It could be like more hard rock and more.
That would be something.
That would be something, right? I know that's being very polite. Thank you.
And they go way back, obviously, to college. And and so. And they used to play Scott would sit in on their sets quite often back in the day. Like if they happened to be, if they were around each other in the area and found they were playing a show, Scott would sit in,
that's cool.
and play. So
that would be an interesting collab. I'd love to see him do something with Eve, like you said, like they've done. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff, but I'd love to see an album.
But obviously, I know that he was. I know the album's done, but oh my gosh, what's her name? I'm gonna screw up her name. I'm gonna say her name wrong. The Alina Diana she's in Portland. She did the Pirates. Oh, what's that album called? I'm gonna mess all this up now. But they performed together at that gallery that I was at in Charlotte.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but they did a whole album, and it's done. And she told me it was done. And obviously, I was there for two of theirs. They played two of the songs that they wrote together, and that's done. But she doesn't know if it's ever coming out.
That's interesting. What is her name?
That album is done. So,
something Diane?
I can't. I mean, I'd have to send it to you. I honestly don't know how. I can't even. She toured with them in 2007 and stuff, and I love her. Her music's amazing, and killing me that I'm screwing up her name because her
Alayla.
Yeah. That's it.
I'm just making that up, but I was just Googling while you were talking because that's one of my side jobs as the producer.
Right. Yeah, you do it on screen now.
Yep.
Alayla Diane. Well, I can't think of her name.
It is Alayla Diane. Yes.
Diane. Okay.
Because and there's actually two different videos that I'm seeing
her,
from
her albums
2016
are
and
amazing.
17.
Can't recommend her albums enough. All of them. They're fantastic.
Wait, you're saying that her and Scott recorded an album?
Oh yeah.
And
I heard two. I've heard two. I've heard them play two of the songs, and she said that they, and they did a whole album. It's done. It's been done.
That one song,
huh?
They released that one song.
No, they didn't release a song together.
I think there is a song on Spotify that he said. Well, I don't know if it's them specifically called them together, but Scott sings on the song with her.
Well, he may sing a song with her, but like the song from their albums haven't been released.
Oh, right. No, not from the album. No.
All right, so we're going to tell people, look, there's two Cracker Farm videos from 2017 that have both of them actually singing with her. Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, she toured with them like off and on. She would open for them every once in a while back in the day. So,
well, that is a good prediction. I like that. Any new, I'll just vote for any new music in any form. I'll take it.
Works for me. Won't complain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now if I had they need to release something super old. That would be great. Like they need to go back and release, release show from 2005 or 6. That would be. I would call
mix it up with some live music from way back.
What would be a good thing? They should release a new live album from say 2024 with a show from say 2004, so you can see not only how they've grown, but and you can enjoy both and
just have the songs like intertwine each other, like the old stuff and the new stuff.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, and then they can have a whole new tour called the Avett Eras 2025. Y'all make it so easy. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
They probably get sued, but anyway.
And then my personal, I wanted one of my Chase songs is for them to play country blues. They're never going to do it, but that was one of the ones I was hoping for. So that could happen if they did something like that.
That'd be cool. I like that song.
Yeah, it's only been that one time since Paul left, and I just think that's a song that ended with Paul.
Maybe.
So, but you never know. Come back.
That'd be that would be a good one to come back. All right, so we're running out of time here. Do you want to talk about the long story short, your archive and the database and all that stuff?
Work on that continues. Just in every way, we're gonna. Next month in the long story short, we're gonna look at David Childers and the Over Mountain Men and Bob. I got that, and look back at a song called Taylor that was a Nemo song in the first album that Scott wrote, and it hung around to actually be played at acoustic shows. So it is the rare of that. Nothing hung around from that first Nemo album to be played at acoustic shows before. That was the only one. So kind of that and a few other things. And then, the archive continues with photos, hunting down. I got a new radio show. I've been looking for this radio show they did on the BBC from 2013, because it's the only acoustic performance of I Never Knew, where it's just Scott and Seth. They played that song. It's the only time that happened. And So I'm supposed to be getting that from the host of that. And that's also the radio interview. Seth talks about running a half marathon, stuff like that. So
It's just stuff that's never been heard
Just-
in a long time, at least.
yeah, I mean, people have heard about it, like, we don't, people, it isn't access to people. Say if you became a fan 2015, well then, you didn't hear it. And so tracking down things like that, always, interviews and just pictures, everything. I go through every show, every day, trying to find something, contacting somebody who was there, stories,
You just found a bunch of interviews, didn't you?
Oh yeah. I got a whole bunch of new interviews from because a paper in North Carolina, put up all their stuff in their archive. So I got a bunch of stuff that I was missing. Some of it's just little things about a show that night. Some of them, there's a few interviews that I didn't have. So that's always good.
Are there reviews and stuff like that? I like the old reviews.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of it is like whether it be a review of the show or like a preview of the show where someone's just saying, "Hey, go see the show," But when that you get the descriptions of the band, which is fun, which is what they talked about a lot this year when they were called, the Muppets and how they were labeled as a band and stuff like that. So I get a lot of those things. I have a giant list of everything they've ever been called, good or bad. So, and there's bad, that's for sure. They were not lying about that this year when they talked about how reviews weren't so kind. Like that happened. I mean, some people not fans, and and a big chunk of that is people thinking they were a bluegrass band.
Right.
Like if you went there thinking that you were going to hear someone pick a guitar or banjo as good as say Billy Strings does, you're fooling yourself, because that wasn't about to be happening. That they couldn't, not even in the same universe. And then add in the yelling, the screaming, and playing out of tune, which Scott does a lot, even to this day. He still does it. So yeah. So I mean, I just think a lot of those things led to some people writing some bad things here and there, not being happy. Their expectations weren't met, at a time. And then not thinking, and not knowing, hey, this band would keep going, keep working. And maybe they came around on them. I know there's people who've come around on them that didn't think much of them, and then came around after album and like, whoa, these guys, write songs, songwriters.
And the sound is definitely different from way back then till now. Obviously, they've come a long way.
So.
All right. So if people want to be a part of Long Story Short, how can they do that?
Well, that's, you can just go to Patreon and type in, Avett Archive or Long Story Short, it'll come up. And obviously the database is free. You can sign up and track your shows, but there's a Patreon for that too, if you want to throw a couple bucks to keep the, database on, but you can just use it too. I mean, just track your shows, put up any pictures, stories, anything. And if anybody out there has any interesting stories, you can send them to me and I'll save them. If they're about a show, a night, I'll keep track of them. And, I like saving all that stuff. So you get a feeling of, what happened on a given night. And my goal is always, obviously, that when as time goes on, 10 years from now, we can look back and you can remember your times, your friends, the people you met when something happened, because it gets foggy. I mean, you're not going to always be like, oh, when did that happen? When did
it's all there.
Tell me about it. That has happened so well. I'm at the point where a show I may have seen a month ago is fuzzy. So I appreciate it so much.
So
there's just so much on there. Like everything you can think of is on there.
Like I said, and that's the huge goal for me, is that people, not only is the band remembered, and because I do think, my thing is preserving the history of the band and the fans. I think they go together. Every fan who's bought something has also helped tell the story of the Avett Brothers. It's helped the Avett Brothers tell their story. Those things, that's how it works. And I think the band, would agree with that. They obviously wouldn't be this far without the loyal and passionate fans that are here,
of course. Right.
So.
All right. Well, it's definitely worth the money. You can pick your price too that you want to pay. If you want to pay more to help support it more, you can. And I know that helps. So get on there and join. If you haven't joined yet, what are you waiting for? You got to get on there. If you're a fan of the band, you got to get on there. You have great stuff on there all the time, and we appreciate everything you do, Tim.
Thanks for having me on here. It's always good. I'll come back whenever you guys want to. If you got something you want to talk about.
Yeah, you're definitely a regular guest because you know more about them than anyone else in the world besides Scott, Seth, Bonnie, and their parents.
So I think the joke of getting jackets for the 5-timers is going to have to become a reality.
Yeah, right. There's this has to be your 5th time on the show, right? I think it's at least 5 times.
It might be.
Yeah,
I don't know how to think about it.
Count it up. So it's you, it's Dan Zlotnick, and Cody Gentry right now are the big ones. But there's got to be someone else close. The Bernie sisters have been on a few times. David Childers has been on a few times. Tanya's been on twice. I know I'm probably missing someone big, but anyway, we got Dolph next week. That'll be fun. Do you have any? Oh, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Do you have any questions that you want me to ask Dolph next week?
Trying to think of something I'd ask him that I wouldn't know already.
Oh, that's true. You know everything.
Because I've heard the story from before about how he discovered him. Although there's still some debate on that about, but that's a whole story. I don't know what to think.
Was that I'll get back?
Yeah, because let me think. I'll think of something.
Okay, yeah, let me know if you think of something. Shoot me a text, and we'll ask him. Tim, thank you so much for coming on again. Really appreciate it. Hope you and your family have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, take care.